Hello and welcome back to Dukascopy TV. It's that time of the week again for another collaborative interview with Agefi. Over to you, Nicolette.
We're less than a week away from the US presidential elections, and Charles Adams, a member of the National Finance Committee for the Obama campaign, has joined us today to discuss US elections and FATCA. Charles, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
So the US cliff, the fiscal cliff, the spending cuts, the end of some of the tax advantages, how is that going to affect the US economy?
In my view, ultimately not at all, since there will be no fiscal cliff. This was a kind of mutual suicide pact that was entered into as a device for overcoming the problem of the raising of the debt limit in August and September of last year, as you'll recall. And the idea basically is that it was agreed that failing a bilateral recommendation from a commission that was set up to that effect for achieving debt reduction, then there would be automatic and obligatory cuts of $500 billion in the defense budget on the one hand, and $500 billion from so-called entitlements, social programs on the other, both of these being anathema to Republicans and Democrats, respectively. Mm-hmm. And, to nobody's surprise, the bipartisan commission to determine the way forward on debt reduction went nowhere. So, as we sit here today, we are facing, as of January 1 of 2013, this so-called fiscal cliff. But what is going to happen in the meantime? We're going to have an election next Tuesday. There will be a result, which I hope to be the re-election of Barack Obama. There will be conversations between next Tuesday and the end of the year between the administration and Congress, and conversations within Congress between Republicans and Democrats to find a true way forward in lieu of what everyone acknowledges to be an absurdity. And very likely it will be agreed, first of all, to kick the can down the road, as they say, until past the inauguration of the next president or of the next administration on the 20th of January. And there will then be serious dialogue resulting in an adult, reasonable, rational solution to the issue which has been confronted and has bedeviled the political process in the US for the last 2 years.
Very well. Now, a bit closer to Switzerland, or certainly a bit closer to Europe, FATCA is affecting the life of American expatriates, and particularly middle-class American expatriates, making it very difficult, both from the daily life point of view and sometimes from the job prospects point of view. As an expatriate yourself, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, everything that you say is correct. FATCA is a colossal pain in the neck, most particularly for law-abiding, tax-paying American citizens living outside of the U.S., not just in Switzerland, but around the world. Why is that the case? First of all, because of the sheer nuisance of the paperwork involved, which is very substantial. It's beyond the capacity of the ordinary taxpayer to deal with, without having to retain at vast expense a tax advisor to do it in one's stead. Secondly, FATCA imposes on financial institutions an equally colossal burden, to such an extent that banks the world over, and again, this is not a phenomenon that is specific to Switzerland, look upon American customers as kind of typhoid Mary, to be avoided at all costs, for the simple reason that the overhead expense, the incremental overhead expense of the American clientele is simply not worth it to the banks. And this affects the daily life of American citizens abroad to the extent of making it impossible for them, for us, to maintain ordinary checking accounts to deal with household expenditures on a day-to-day basis. As a result of which, the community of Americans living overseas has made its voice known vehemently on this issue to representatives in Congress, to the administration directly, and I'm happy to say that we have been heard. To the extent that FATCA is not implemented, the date for the original implementation of the entire regime has been pushed down the road at least 6 months, and I dare say will be pushed down the road still further until the entire concept is revisited and made substantially less burdensome, more streamlined, more targeted, and ultimately achieves the ends which it was designed for, but with vast overreach which will be corrected.
Okay, in Switzerland, there is a feel that the United States authorities are persecuting both banks and sometimes even private citizens. Do you feel that there's any justification in that feeling?
No, actually. It's true that that perception exists. But I'll tell you why I believe that this is in fact a misperception. The aim of the U.S. administration, and this is not particular to the Obama administration, it was the case already with the predecessor administration. It will be the case tomorrow with whomever is elected to the presidency of the United States, is to pursue delinquent American taxpayers who owe money to the federal government on unreported income from undeclared bank accounts. It's that simple. And the undeclared bank accounts are not only in Switzerland. In fact, they're not even principally in Switzerland. They are in various offshore jurisdictions. I will share with you a simple fact, which is that by and large, people with undeclared accounts offshore, of which I hasten to say I am not one, like to have their money in places where they can go and visit it over a weekend, say. And that would suggest that most of the undeclared monies belonging to American citizens, most of the undeclared monies belonging to American citizens, are not at all in Switzerland, nor in Singapore. They are in places that are within easy reach of the American mainland.
So the Swiss in reality have nothing to fear, in particular, unless they have actually committed a crime.
Absolutely. That is emphatically the case. The Swiss themselves, as individual citizens, have absolutely nothing to fear. The Swiss government has nothing to fear. The Swiss banks have to fear only their potential liability to the extent that they were actively to aid and abet American citizens in the commission of what is, after all, a crime.
Well, Charles, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Great comments as always there. We'll be back shortly with more exclusive interviews. For now though, goodbye.